Sometimes you have to do that because the easy challenge is one you'll get lazy with. The big challenge gets you hungry.
Oh, how the tables turn.
That's a heavy topic, and we need to focus on that. If not for yourself, then do it for your children.
Black book is in black.
Black
book.
Men Talk, Black Book. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that movement since 2021, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 500,000, or we say 500,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And you are watching Black Men Can Talk, a show where Black Canadian men come together to have real, unfiltered conversations about life, culture, and community. And I'm joined by my co-hosts, Kofi Morris and Kofi Sadat. Gentlemen, what is cracking?
We're good. I'm good. How you doing? How you doing, Brother Kofi?
Microphone checker 1 2. What is this? The 5 foot. I'm gonna stop.
Hey, listen.
Peace, and blessings, brothers. How's everybody feeling? Everybody doing? Give thanks once again. Looking forward to another blessed and live session here in the T.O.
Okay. Well, we have our MC for the night. I can tell that. We got our MC going on for the night.
This is it.
Gentlemen, as always, let's kick it off. What's a win we've had in the last week?
You want to go first, Kofi?
You can spark it up, brother. You can spark it up.
I'm gonna keep it real simple. I had a win today because the weather was beautiful, and I went for a walk. Actually, I went for 2 walks. So,
wow.
For me, that was a win. Just kind of getting out there, moving, connecting, and having the solitude and the mental, break to just walk and just take it all in. So I'm gonna take that as a win for myself. All
right. Kofi Morris, what's going on with your win?
100%. Yeah. So what I will share, we just essentially started a brand new community online for artists, budding artists who've been doing work in the world of music for some time. It was the 25th anniversary of a project called United Mic. So we just started our online community. So we just launched it this week. So there'll be some amazing things coming for spring, summer for the launch of the compilation project. So I'm looking forward to sharing some of the wins relative to that, but just creating that space, for artists to come through, to build, to create everything from artist development to music production, all that great stuff. So looking forward to sharing more of the journey of that as well.
Nice.
Wonderful. That's good stuff. I guess one of the wins I had was just yesterday. I was sharing with our friend, our returning friend. Every month I get a chance to lead a session with about 35 men. And yesterday we had a gentleman share who has been through a lot, and he's right now challenging something called, it's a DID syndrome, but he twitches a lot, nerves, arm, etc. And it's been an ongoing thing, it was a really incredible moment because even before his balance was going, and he wasn't, we had to be a one on each side of him so he didn't tumble.
Right.
And I asked him, do you want to do this? He said, yes. I feel like the enemy's trying to tell me not to do this. He got up in the chair, and then, he had his phone. He said, oh, I have my notes all on my phone. Let alone, he wasn't able to access them for some reason. And then I said, you know what? Just go straight from the heart.
Yeah.
And it was so powerful. And as I was saying to our good friend who's going to join us in a moment, I don't like calling them presentations. I say sharing notes, just sharing stuff for them, because I don't like this formal presentation. and I had some things up on a screen, but I said, you know what? I just asked the gentleman, do they have any questions for him? And then the conversation started going out into amongst the men sharing different things. And it was so powerful. We scheduled it for an hour and a half. We had to stop after 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Wow.
And hardly anybody was leaving.
Wow. It's powerful, brother. That's powerful.
It was just next level. Like, I was so happy for him. And I ran into his wife today and I said, look, your husband was amazing yesterday.
Right.
And he came home and told me, and I said, but he also expressed how much he loves you and your son. So I want you to hear that too, during that session. But it was next level.
Love hearing.
That's good stuff. But yes, the weather is getting better. So far, don't know if it's gonna stick, but so far. But you know what? We're not gonna spend too much time on our wins. We've got a returning friend here tonight, and I want to make sure we give him as much time and space to do his thing. So we're gonna go for a little bit of a break, and then we'll do some housekeeping. We're gonna bring Joe Corley onto the stage. So here we go.
Toronto, July 25th. The Narrative Power Summit is landing in the 6. This is about ownership.
This is about controlling our story. If you're serious about narrative power, strategy, and ownership, this is the room you need to be in. To get your tickets, go to africandiasporanews.org/Canada. I'll see you in Toronto.
There we go. Yes, big event coming to TO, the T-Dot, and the ADNC, Narrative Power Summit at the Aqua Supper Club in Toronto, Saturday, July 25th, 2026, this year from 5 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. There is the link. I'll also share it on a number of the platforms you're watching this live on the replay. And I am blessed to not only host the event, but I'm also going to be one of the panelists for the event.
Ooh,
So
nice.
looking forward. You know what? I want all the people, and definitely people should come, because the headliner, Philip Scott, actually he's from Texas. He's based in Texas. He has built his own online platform that has over 1.3 million followers.
Nice.
And he's
Beautiful.
basically done it on his own, but he's been the leading. He's not got any grants or any sponsorships, all that. He's just been doing it like right straight on the go, right on the go. So family, if you can, check it out. You got a lot of time. It's July, but you see I'm pushing it now. So as always, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Substack. Want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm on? Email me dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And then finally, this is International Women's Day. So I just want to hail up the women that have served and helped me, past, present, and future, to be the Black man that I am. Could not do it and will not do it without you. And we need to have more equity and reduce the patriarchy in our spaces. Gentlemen, anything else you want to add on that before we bring Brother Joe up?
Oh, for sure, man. Definitely, I want to hail up all the beautiful women in my life, that have, just deserve the flowers, not just on today, but definitely today's the day to highlight them. So definitely my mother, my wife, my daughter, my sisters, and all the, the great friends that I have, community members that have been doing some serious work in advancing the cause of women and specifically Black women. So I want to hail them up, and definitely on behalf of Black Men Can Talk, definitely, salute you all and, give you your flowers.
Kofi Morris, anything you want to add on that?
100%. It's funny. I was thinking about this today, right? Every time International Women's Day comes around, there's always this, I don't know about the brothers, but there's always this feeling of what can you give to those who have given so much and who continue to give so much? You know, a post, you know, a card or whatever. It never feels sufficient. But the thing I'll say, that I don't know if I've been able to say in a public space really before, but you know, sisters, women, you know, the mothers, the aunties, the tanties in my life, etc. You know, have truly made me in so many ways. The parent, a lot of the parenting approaches that I have utilized throughout the years raising daughters, they've been such a significant example, you know what I'm saying, for me. And just as a being on this planet, man, because being the nurturers, but also the workers, but also some the most resilient folks that you'll ever come across, and most of the powerful brothers that you might know have a strong woman beside them. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that I'll say, is that it's such an important aspect that we don't get to acknowledge, as you said, in this patriarchal run society, when traditionally as African people, our women were at the forefront. You know what I'm saying? So, and no matter how you flip it now, as you see with statistics and all that stuff, women are still at the top, and Black women specifically, melanated women are specifically at the top, relative to education, and who are pursuing over odds that in a lot of cases sometimes we even play a role in challenging them with, because of the patriarchy. So I'm just thankful, you know what I'm saying, that our women continue to hold it down and still look towards us for the forms of leadership that we can provide in community, and continue to inspire us on this journey. So I'm thankful just to say that, you know, there's some beautiful, powerful, amazing Black women in my life, as the brothers have shared. So happy International Women's Day to all of our sisters, man.
There you go.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, as we do a switcheroo, we're having a friend back, and I thought I was president of the Joe Corley fan club, but obviously not, because periodically Kofi Sadat says, "When's Dr. Joe coming back? When can you get a hold of Dr. Joe?" And this past week in the Greater Toronto, well, I think in Canada it was Black Mental Health Week. Was it just this last week? So yes. I said, okay, let's bring on, even though it's International Women's Day, Black Mental Health Week. So we have back Joe Corley from Real You Consulting. Wonderful gentleman, powerful in heart first, and then in mind, and then other places. And it is a joy and honor to have you back, Joe. We're going to be hanging out with you tonight, chatting about Black men embracing therapy, how healing is changing our lives. So first things first, how we doing today, brother? And thanks for being here.
Man, I appreciate you. Let me appreciate your brothers having me, man. I'm doing really well. Thank y'all for having me on, and I'm excited to have this conversation. I'm always excited to have these conversations, man.
Good stuff. Do you guys want to start first, or how you want it? Because I'm ready to go.
You can kick it off. Just want to again thank our brother here for coming back on the show. But yeah, go ahead. You can start.
Yeah. So let me kick it off with you. When you think about Black men embracing therapy today, what gives you the most hope?
Man, that's a really good and tough question. I feel like because I'm on the front lines with this, you know, and I see brothers coming in to see me consistently, and more, the percentage of my practice that includes Black men is growing. Yeah, I have more than hope. I have visual evidence that shows me that more Black men are deciding to come into therapy. So once they get in the door, I've never seen a Black man turn around and leave. I mean, they all enjoy it. They all want somewhere to go where they can talk and not feel pressure to perform or judgment. It's just a matter of getting them in the door. That has always been the most difficult part. But once they're in there, nobody leaves.
I love that. I love that. So what factors do you attribute to that shift that you've been seeing when it comes to Black men, especially once they're in the door, like kind of embracing the help and the support that they need? And then what factors do you attribute to that?
Well, since it's International Women's Day, the first factor I'm gonna say is women. That's the
Okay.
biggest factor
All
that
right.
contributes to Black men getting in the door. Almost 97% of the men that come through the door were pushed through that thing by a woman of some sort. So that's the thing. And then I think culturally, I think there's just been a shift outside of even relationships where Black men are like, some of the things that we've been taught and things that we're holding on to are, when we look at them, objectively, are actually kind of corny, right? um, you know, and I think a lot of men are like trying to fall out of that and be the best versions of themselves. We're dealing with a different generation of men at this time. They're saying, hey, we want to be fathers, we want to be better husbands, we want to figure these things out. So how are we going to do that? And a lot of it's just like, I don't know. A lot of them are like, I don't know. So let me tap in with somebody that maybe can tell me, what's logical, what's not logical, so I can really figure out how to shrink the space in between the man that I say I want to be and the man that I'm actually showing up as.
Nice. Kofi Morris, you're back with us.
Yeah, my question, Doc, is like, interestingly enough, I don't know if we got to ask this before, but what actually got you on this journey of pursuing, this type of work specifically?
A couple of things, man. I started out my career actually. I don't know if you brothers seen the movie Boomerang.
Yeah.
But I started out my life really just wanting to be Marcus Graham. So
okay.
I got into a career in accounting. That was my first career. And, as I was going through undergrad, I, one of my scholarships required me to do community service. Once I put my foot in that water, I really realized that I was just meant to serve. So being meant to serve is, having that inside of you inherently, and knowing that the career that I'm in is not going to allow me to do that is one thing. Then I get to serving, I switch from accounting to teaching. And then just a lot of, my own personal traumas and healing journey to go through. You hit a crossroads, you break down. I broke down. I had to put myself in a institution for a couple of days to try to just figure out, what was going on. I'm at the end of my rope. I mean, I'm out here and I'm actually trying to end my life. And I looked at my family and said, no, this is not it. I have to figure out a way to want to live. So I checked myself in, and I just got a taste of kind of what that, I mean, through all the things I've been through, I've never actually been in therapy for an extended period of time. And that exposed me to it, and I saw the power of it. And then right immediately I was kind of like, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. So I made that shift, and then I've been doing it ever since. And then the journey just expanded, recognizing that there's a lot of brothers out here that need to be exposed to this. And I'm still finding out that so many brothers are just slow to take care of themselves. So it just became, the mission within the mission, to expose as many brothers as I can to the healing space.
Nice.
Beautiful. And there's a question I have that ties right back into that too. And kudos to you for doing the work, because it's a phrase that we've been saying a lot in the social service community and the community of healers and people who are working on behalf of our people specifically, is those three words: do the work, right? Because there's social media and all these ways you can sell yourself as being healed. You could sell yourself as, you know, everything's going good. You could do that. But what's really going on behind the scenes often is some serious work that it should show, right, in the work that we're doing. The question I have is relative to the whole piece around brothers, this whole notion of like brothers now beginning to really embrace that healing, and like what shifts you're seeing. It's kind of similar to Dr. Vibe's question, but kind of going further now to say, like, what shifts are you seeing now with brothers now getting to the point where, you know, they're really wanting to do the work?
You asking me what shifts I'm seeing now?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's mainly just, you know, like I said, one, brothers is once we're in a space where we're exhausted, right? We're tired of performance, and that seems to be like the main underlying issue that I see with brothers, that they feel like their masculinity is tied to their performance. You know, if you are not making a lot of money, or a super huge built protective figure in your family's lives, or you're not putting it down in the bedroom consistently, if you're not doing one or all three of those things, then you are somehow not a man. So the shift is coming in understanding that our value goes beyond your performance. You bring more to the table than how much money you bring in. You bring in more to the table than how well you perform sexually. It's wrapped up in your presence. You know, there's just so much more to us than a performance. A lot of brothers are seeing that, and you know, they're wanting to live in that space where they can be more than just their performance.
Nice. Black Nerd Talk says, great conversation. Good to have you here as always, Black Nerd Talks. And as you say, we were hanging out with Dr. Joe, licensed therapist, about Black men embracing therapy. I like to call him Joe. I don't know if he likes the doctor. I think he just likes Joe, but how healing is changing our lives. Let me ask, Joe, are there particular moments, life moments, such as fatherhood, career stress, health scares, that finally push brothers to say, I need help?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just named a lot of them. You know what I mean? A lot of it is tied around fatherhood. A lot of it is tied around being husbands. You know, some brothers, you know, are unfaithful, you know, and things like that go on, and they can't figure out why, because they actually do love their wives, but they've been conditioned to show up a certain way. So they don't know how to, you know, they don't know how to just sit in a space and like not fall victim to their conditioning. So there's that, and there's work performance, and there's racial trauma. There's just so many different areas where brothers walk around unhealed, and you know, a lot of brothers hit a wall and they're just tired. They don't feel, you know, and they don't know how to cry, and they don't know how to break down. They don't know how to ask for help. They don't know how to communicate those things, and a lot of times they don't have spaces to communicate those things, or there's spaces that are surrounding them are not safe. You know, you don't feel safe, you're not gonna say these things. So yeah, man, to answer your question, there's a lot of contributors.
Nice. Kofi, Sadat, you want to jump in, or you want me to continue?
Sure. On that note of creating safe space, because I think, as you alluded to, that it might be a challenge to get the brothers to come in, but once they're in, you're finding that they're staying, they're maintaining that piece. So on the note of creating that safe space, right, and just maybe there's other therapists or other folks that are healers, or just people who want to make sure that the brothers are staying connected to the process.
Yeah.
What kind of advice can you give about creating that safe space that brothers feel comfortable within themselves to open up, but to also commit themselves to the process of healing?
Yeah, man. I try to tell brothers that vulnerability is the key,
Mm.
right? So when you get opportunities, because there are spaces where brotherhood exists, where community exists, and sometimes it's really just about you being vulnerable and recognizing that you really have nothing to lose through your vulnerability. You have nothing to lose. So, you know, you have to go out there and figure out where you feel sensitive at. I always liken it to owning a home, and you don't know that the back window doesn't lock until you know, right? And then if you never know and nobody ever tries you in that area, then you never know you're weak in that area. So once you find out, you say, "Oh, okay. Well, I just replaced this lock." Now you're stronger in that area. You're stronger in that area. So sometimes you have to find out where you're weak through vulnerability by just going out and just giving it a shot.
Yeah.
Just talk, just talk and see what happens. You're gonna find out that um, one, you're not alone, and it's a lot more brothers that are looking for brotherhood and community
Right.
than you think.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice. And for people want to touch base with Joe, website is there, Instagram is there, Facebook and LinkedIn. Again, it's in the comments section on many of the platforms. You're watching us live on the replay. And before he leaves tonight, he's organizing a retreat, and he's going to talk a little about that before we let him go this evening. But my next conversation piece is, what have you noticed about younger Black men and their attitudes towards therapy compared to the older generations?
Yeah, the younger guys, I will say, are starting to become more vulnerable. The older guys are starting to recognize that they should have done it a long time ago, right?
Mm.
Now you're talking about there's a gap in there, right? So if you're talking about like teens and adolescents, they're not there yet. They're not interested in being vulnerable. They're still hanging on to old school masculinity tropes.
Wow.
Now the guys that are in there, you find them in there like 22 to 27 range. These guys
Right.
are talking. They're finding value in talking. They want to talk. Um, so they're doing it. They're doing it. They're coming in and they're talking. They don't want to be what they witnessed from their parents. Um, but yeah, that older generation that now I'm gonna extend that from like 22 to maybe 32,
Yeah.
35 and up, somewhere in there. They're recognizing like, man, I really should have been on this a long time ago. Um, and you have to get them over that hump of like the regret. But once you get them over that regret, is freedom time.
Mm,
Mm.
mm.
Wow. That's a very interesting piece that you just said there. But I think it's in alignment to some of the work out here with the rites of passage stages, the fact that that young adult, that time where you have more reflection. When you're in the teens, you think that you're invincible, whether physically, mentally, spiritually. It seems like it makes sense. And then you're more reflective, I guess, 35 and up. So it seems like it would make sense. But it's making me think, though, collectively, what is it we could do to reach our brothers at a younger age? Because as you said, the older gentlemen are like, yo, I wish I had done this long time ago. Right. So it's making me think collectively, any suggestions you might have, or collectively, even, Dr. Vibe, any of us that, how can we get to our, younger people, even if it's just to introduce the idea that therapy is okay,
Yeah, man. What we can do is what we're doing.
Mm.
Model the behavior that you're looking for. You know what I mean? So we're having these conversations, and we just got to have them in spaces that are visible as
Right.
often as possible for the young brothers to see, and we model that behavior. And they will follow. They will
Right.
follow.
True.
Make this look cool. I mean, and I'll admit you're in stiff competition with, a lot of the celebrities out here that kind of are adverse. to vulnerability looking cool.
Right.
But as often as you can, you might pull 1 out of 15 that looks and says, "Yeah, I think I want to talk." But you got to be happy with that one and hope that one touches 3. You know, so that's just the way it is, man. That's all I can do. I have understood that about what I'm doing for the longest. Um, that as long as I model what I'm trying to see, at the very minimum, that's all I can do.
True. Thank you.
Facts. Facts.
Mhm.
Dr. Joe, let me ask you from your lens, when a Black man starts therapy,
Mhm.
what does the healing journey often look like in the first few months?
Shock. That's what it looks
Wow. Okay.
like. They are shocked, because I can't. It's like I don't want to put us on a monolith, but I swear it's always the same. Man, it's always like I can't believe this.
Yeah.
It's like they sit there for a minute. A lot of them, depends if they come in voluntary. Brothers that come in on their own, they're ready. Like I'm ready to talk, and I am kind of shedding old beliefs and old thoughts, right? And it is still shocking. Now, brothers that come in involuntary, like through their woman, they usually sit there for 2 or 3 sessions, and then finally you hit them with something, and they're like, "That's exactly right, brother. That's exactly how I feel,
Yeah.
and now I'm finna tell you more."
Yeah.
Because there is a certain language that only Black men understand. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you can't only go to a Black male therapist. If you're a Black male, you can
Yeah.
get value from any therapist if they're talented. But there is a language, there is an understanding, that comes from being a Black male that you can communicate, that you can only really communicate if you're a Black male. I mean, that's just the truth.
Agreed. There's something else, I'm wondering about, because often I work with families, or I, talk to, men about wanting to access therapy. And I mean, I said the Canadian reality, and I'm pretty sure it's the same there, but you can let me know, is that sometimes there's a financial barrier, right?
Hmm.
So if you don't have the benefits here, the work benefits that will pay for the therapy,
Hmm.
always thinking about, what kind of resolutions, or how do you deal with the fact that maybe you're working with you know, some men that may not be able to afford therapy. Is there anything that you do in particular? Is there any, programs? How does that work out?
Yeah, that is a barrier. I do keep 2 or 3 pro bono spots on my calendar.
Right.
Just kind of as a pay it forward, because when I couldn't afford it, I had a therapist that hooked me up. So, and
Right.
he only asked me to pay it forward. So that's kind of what I've been doing.
Right.
Um, um, but yeah, you can always find benefits somewhere. There's always a program somewhere. You just have to, do the research, get into whatever your city is and wherever you live.
Right.
But you can always find something somewhere. It's always.
All right. Okay, so folks are listening out there. We want to know, what are the supports that, if Black men, or if families want to access the necessary therapy, let us know. Put it in the comments, or reach out to us.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Joe, I want to ask you also, what does progress look like beyond "I feel better" in relationships, work, health, or community involvement?
Say that one more time, Dr. Vaughn.
Yeah, no problem. What does progress look like beyond "I feel better"
Yeah.
when it comes to relationships, work, health, or community involvement?
Yeah, man. Behavioral change.
Mm.
When you go beyond feeling better, what do your behaviors look like? How do you show up for the people in your life? How are the people in your life receiving you? Your husband, no, that should be immediate, right? Your wife is gonna be the first one to be like, "Hey, things are different." Your kids are gonna be like, I have a situation, or I had a podcast episode with my son. And my son, he brought up on the podcast the differences that he had seen in me since I started my healing journey. And I clipped that, and you can go to my social medias and look at it. But I'm very proud of that, because that was when I kind of realized there was change. But it becomes behavioral. Are you less quick? Are you less quick to anger?
Right.
You know, because anger seems like the only emotion that we're taught is okay to express. So when you learn that, you know, certain things don't necessarily make you as angry as they once did, and you're not as quick to get angry, you're not as quick to use violence as a problem solver. That's what it looks like beyond just I feel better. You know, when you recognize that the things that you were doing that were unhealthy don't really serve you no more. If you're a drinker, you don't want to drink as much anymore. If you're a smoker, you don't want to smoke as much anymore because you were just doing those things honestly to cope um, with some of the things in your life that you didn't necessarily know how to deal with. So you're looking for escapes. When you're on your healing journey, you're not so much into these escapes anymore. You're looking for different ways to fill your time. What does it look like career wise? Are you on a different journey? Are you just now saying, you know, I've been going to work for 5, 6, 7 years straight at this job, and it doesn't really do the same thing? Because before, all I was looking for was a paycheck. Well, I'm looking for more out of life now. You know, I have purpose in my life now, so now I want more than a paycheck. So I got to figure out, you know, maybe this is not what I only did this because it was financially lucrative to me, but now I got to figure out how do I fulfill myself. Um, so that space in between, like I said, the man that you say you want to be and the man that you're showing up as, they get closer.
Mm.
You know, they get closer.
Nice.
And
I
that's
just
what.
want to I just want to share with the audience. I'm putting it out here. Question for especially black men that are watching this live on the replay. Got a question for you. What's one thing you were taught about being a black man that makes it hard to ask for help? So, and this is for anyone here, but also for the audience. But Dr. Joe seems like he'd love to answer that question.
Oh, you guys go ahead. I like to hear you guys' answers. Go
Oh,
ahead.
for sure. I think definitely, you know, the whole thing about not asking for help, to be honest with you, and seeing that as a weakness, made it hard to ask for help, right? And tying that to manhood, right? Right. So, you know, you're not a man if you are vulnerable, you know, as Joe says. So that carrying that piece for the longest time, I believe, you know, made it difficult until I saw, you know, the holes in that therapy. So I thought the men around me who were stuck, right, who were suffering because they couldn't ask for help, right? So I think that's one of the things. It's the whole piece around, you know, you're not a man if you have to rely on other people, right? So that was one of the challenges I think for me that made it hard to ask for help, is that asking for help was, you know, not a manly thing to do.
Before I answer, Black Nerd Talks has an answer. Being shamed for making the wrong choice or action, being pathologized for being intellectually inferior to others. Wow. That's good. That's good for me. There's so many things, but one of the things is when I was feeling hurt, I just had to accept it and not express it. That, you know, and I'll give a 20-second example. I used to, and like probably many black men, when I was young, I used to get the belt. And for many, many years, I kept that hurt inside of me and basically said, you know, you have to accept that. Until one day, a number of years ago, I approached my dad. I've shared this story a few times. I just say, you know what, Dad, when you gave me the belt, it really, really hurt me. And I just wanted to tell you that. And he said, hey, you know, son, I didn't know any other way. That was the way I was raised.
Yeah.
So just putting it out there. Kofi Morris is back. And one other thing too, Black Nerd Talk says, don't be afraid to ask a therapist for a sliding scale. Some offer lower rates than people can afford it. So don't be afraid. Again, asking for help. All right. Okay. So we're back.
My question actually ties into what was just said, relative to this piece around, us not sharing, suppressed emotions, things like that, right? And I'm wondering, like in your view, Joe, like how has that shaped mental health in our community, right? What does that look like relative to mental health in our community? The fact that we continue to suppress those emotions, how does that show up? What does that look like?
More than mental health, it shows up in our physical health too, right? So going to the first question and then to your question, Kofi, one of the biggest barriers for Black men asking for help has always been that a lot of us were raised to believe that strength meant handling everything on your own. And no criticism to the generation that preceded us, because historically our fathers and our grandfathers, we had to survive systems that didn't allow the luxury of being vulnerable, right?
Straight up.
So, but what protected them then hurt future generations. And that's a lot of actually everybody's mental health journey, is understanding that things that you put in place to help you survive as a child no longer serve you in adulthood, right? And therapy is where you learn the real strength and courage to be honest about, all the things that we're carrying. Black men, we are often praised for being strong, but we rarely get that same celebration just for being human. You don't see a bunch of, sisters online in the comments, going crazy over the man that's sitting there crying.
Wow.
You know what I mean? But some might appreciate that, but it's not historically celebrated in the way that it should be. So what am I recognizing, man? First in our mental health and first in our physical health, holding these things in is why we deal with high blood pressure, why we deal with, kidney failure, all of these things that, our body holds that stress. It holds that stress, and it's like poisoning us, honestly, not to release these things. And you can, hey, that's research based. You don't got to just take, I'm just out here, some guy spitting mumbo jumbo. You can research that and look at yourself. The body does hold that stress. And then the mental side of it is, like I said, anger becomes the only, anger is a secondary emotion. It usually means when we're sad or afraid of something. But I can't come into a room and say, hey, I'm sad or I'm afraid. So the only thing I know how to express is anger. So that's what it looks like all the time when you see these guys popping off and they don't know anything else, because that's the only emotion that they feel safe to express, because it's the only one they've been allowed to express. You know what I mean? So, that guy gets considered more respect in the room than the guy that's over there trying to tell you about how he feels.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
That's a huge one. That's a huge one right there, right? And it's often overlooked. And I think literally there's only, I would say within the last 10 years, right, that I came across that spectrum, that emotional spectrum, and doing social work that connects all the various emotions, the core emotion, and then all the offshoots of that emotion connecting. So like for brothers that are tuning in right now that are dealing with things like anger, one of the questions, I guess, Joe, you would essentially unpack in a session with them would be to determine what is the root of that anger, right?
100%. What is the underlying cause of that anger? Guy gets mad because he comes home and the cap is off the toothpaste, and he blows up. It's all over the house, screaming and yelling at everybody because the cap is off the toothpaste. He is not angry about the cap being off the toothpaste. It's like you said, Kofi, what is the underlying reason for his anger? And we have to investigate that, and figure out what that is. And once we figure out what that is, then we can process it and tell ourselves the truth about whatever you know, illogical cognition you came up with that probably developed somewhere in your childhood.
And this ties into the brothers who now, like, for example, in the city here, right, in Toronto, we're often dealing with things like gun violence, specifically as it relates to young Black men. There's been a huge, shift in the last, let's say, 10, 15 years of the access, if you want to call it, to firearms, to young people, and the ages continue to get lower and lower. I was thinking about this last week and just thinking about the whole piece around the difference between the moment, that couple seconds that a young man has to make a decision to act or to not act in a violent manner, and the repercussions that come as a result, right? And just tying those things into even back in the day when we used to have something here in Toronto where, for on a ball court or playing basketball or whatever, and there was a heated argument, a man might say, "I'm going to my car," right? And we know what that meant, right? Usually you know what that meant. And that would clear basketball courts, right? And in some cases, men don't want to leave when that's said, because then it looks like you're soft or whatever the case may be, right? We've had that. We have going to dances and a man steps on your shoe, fresh new kicks that you just got, back in the day, some Timberland boots or whatever, or some what was it, Firefox and everything there, and Travel Fox. And the reality was, it's a disrespect thing. So in that moment, another man could lose his life as a result of that. So I'm wondering now, when we connect that anger to what you talked about in terms of it actually being rooted in something like sadness, which could be rooted from way back when he was whatever age or whatever, and things weren't dealt with. I'm wondering how we approach that now, as brothers just in community. So we're not necessarily, therapists or whatever the case may be, but we see those patterns showing up. Are there some suggestions that you would say for the mothers, for the fathers, for the older brothers, the cousins, the uncles that are dealing and seeing that anger in this young man, but recognizing, hold on, that may not be that what I'm seeing? What are maybe just some suggestions that you would kind of recommend of how to approach those kind of situations?
That's tough because, a lot of brothers aren't, these young brothers ain't open to hearing from strangers. But like I was saying earlier, man,
more like somebody connected to you, more like somebody connected.
Okay, yeah. And that's the case. And I'm coming in the room and I'm saying, hey, I'm asking you what's going on versus talking at you. I'm talking with you. I want an understanding. Hey, what got you so elevated in that moment? And as they're talking, I want to slow down and say, okay, well, when was the moment that you decided that you were going to go all the way up and turn all the way up? And then they're telling me, and I'm saying, well, I'm wondering, when have you ever felt like that before? What emotions have you felt? Whatever emotions you felt in that moment, if you don't know what those emotions are, I'll hand a brother, something to show him other words for emotions besides, oh, I was just mad. Okay, well, here's a list of emotions, man. I want you to explain to me exactly what you were feeling. Oh, I felt disrespected. I felt disregarded. And the name and all these things. So I say, when have you ever felt that before? And then they start talking, and it's usually some moment in their life that is a core memory of theirs, where in that core memory, in that moment, their whole life shifted. Something shifted and it became part of their internal code. Now this is their internal belief system. So now when that is challenged, I'm afraid. So when I'm afraid, I turn up. It's fight or flight, right? So when I'm afraid, I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to turn up. And if I can't figure out how to, figure this out quickly, then I'm going to resort to violence. So just an understanding of helping them understand some of the beliefs that they had when they were younger no longer serve them now, and helping them understand that, hey, you're safe now, and there are other opportunities for you besides this. And I'm making it short, but honestly, that is a long journey, right? That is not something you can walk up to somebody on the street and, like, you know what I mean, just start helping them understand. That is a much longer journey. But yeah, that's pretty much the process.
Thank you, Joe,
Thank you,
on that.
brother.
Before I pass it to Kofi Sadat, got Karina, someone saying, I agree. Many ask and the wrong help. This is why our communities are in trouble. And then in the house, Jonathan Juiceman Shaw is here saying, good evening. Good to have you, brother. Kofi Sadat, go ahead.
You know, we're talking about I was thinking about spirits of influence, and what I've been seeing a lot lately on social media is, you know, there's a lot of entertainers that are, you know, speaking about the mental health journey. Folks like Method Man and other folks like that who are, you know, rappers and whatnot. You know, what role do you think, you know, entertainers can play in terms of encouraging, you know, brothers to go to therapy? Have you seen that been a factor? I know you mentioned about the sisters, but I think there's a role that can be played, especially because social media is so influential to our community. And, you know, what role, if any, do you see social media playing in terms of encouraging us to step into therapy or continue to step into therapy?
What role can they play? They can play a huge role. The influence is immense. You know, it's more powerful than, you know, than my reach. You know, if you have somebody who you respect, excuse me, pardon me, who you admire, that's telling you, hey, I took this route, and you know, it changed my life in this way, and you can see the tangible difference in what they're talking about. That's a big deal. You know, that responsibility is lost on a lot of people, unfortunately. And you know, and if I have my way, I mean, you live and die by that. I don't want to be influenced positively or negatively by celebrities, because you have to take the good with the bad, right? So you would hope that, you know, that's not a thing. But, you know, unfortunately for a lot of young men in their lives, they don't have present male influence.
Right.
So celebrities become that. So yeah, they have a heavy influence, but it's a tough game out there. You know, there's a lot of things that I see on social media and the internet that just bother me immensely. And I'm like, why are we saying that? Why are we telling young brothers that, man? That's not true. That's not right.
Yeah.
You know, but just one man.
True. Thank you.
Joe, I want to ask you, what have your clients taught you about Black men's strength, vulnerability, and what healing really looks like?
Man, you know, when it's funny is I just had a brother in my office on Saturday, and he was crying, man. Like when he came in there and he cried, he's grabbing for tissues, and that was like a significant moment because that rarely happens. Brothers get vulnerable, brothers talk, but that rarely happens where a brother just starts crying. So to watch that, to see that healing space, you know, work for that man, it just taught me, you know, what's possible, you know, and not even in that moment, but even when brothers before the crying, when people are just talking and they're coming into their spaces, you know, more vulnerable, and they're becoming better husbands and better fathers. It taught me that through the Black man, I mean it sincerely, the entire community can get better. And that became like, I mean, the entire community, our entire community, and our entire community is better when the Black man is healthy and whole. The entire community benefits from that. And that's what I've been learning on this journey. Like I've seen it. I've seen how the family gets better and more improved through the Black man's healing.
Drop the mic for that one right there, because I wish we had those applause. I know Dr. Vibe, we're gonna start throwing some sounds up in here and stuff. You know what I mean? We get to throw the applause right there because that needs to be anchored into what we're talking about. There we go. So I'm gonna do a quick rapid fire round with you, Joe, and it's just one word answer. And ready to go?
Yep.
All right. One word that describes healing for you.
Authenticity.
Therapy, if you could finish this sentence, therapy is
Everything.
a myth about Black men and therapy that needs to die.
So many myths. I would say crazy.
One emotion many Black men struggle to express.
Vulnerability.
The biggest barrier preventing men from seeking therapy.
Vulnerability.
Something therapy helped you understand about yourself.
Empathy.
A habit that supports your mental wellness.
Mindfulness.
One thing every Black man should unlearn.
It's 2 words. Toxic masculinity.
One thing every Black man should embrace more.
Vulnerability and empathy.
And lastly, a song that represents healing for you.
Man, that's tough. You got me on that one. That's
I'm just saying you're from Texas, right?
yeah. Well, I'm not from here, but I live here.
You're here now.
I say wake up, everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, Teddy Pendergrass or Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Either way, Teddy Pendergrass singing. Yeah.
Jeez. And lastly, sir, I'll add one, which is a book every man should read for emotional growth.
I feel like the 4 Agreements is what I would recommend for brother. I always like to give brother in that one. Like
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. We've been Sadat actually has more been at the forefront of, and another brother named Tugs have been at the forefront of supporting some Black men, Black boys through rites of passage, and that was actually the book that came to recommend to them. So it's so interesting that you said the 4 Agreements. That's powerful.
Exactly.
That book definitely helped change me quite a bit.
So the question and the follow-up question is when the Joe Corley book is coming out. You're dropping too many gems tonight. It's not to be
soon, man. Soon. I started 2026 with the understanding that with any idea that came to my head, I was going to execute. So right now, I'm so heavily into this retreat. But as soon as I get to, I'm personally going to go live in Mexico for a month in June. All right. And when I'm going to go down there and I'm going to plug, I'm going to try to finish this book. But it's already like 80% written.
All right. Looking forward.
What part of Mexico, if you don't mind?
More the Quintana Roo, Playa in that area, Puerto Morelos.
And is that more of like a traditional, like is it more rural, like, or is it more city? What kind of area is that?
The city part is like the Playa part, but that that Puerto Morelos is like a real quiet, nice. But it's all beach. It's all, yeah.
Right. Beautiful.
So, Dr. Joe, you mentioned about retreat. I'm going to put it up here on the screen, and you can tell us all about it.
What I'm talking about here, fellas, is the true reset, and it's a healing experience for Black men, where we're trying to rest, where we're trying to rise, and we're trying to reset and move into our authenticity to become the real you. It's an opportunity, it's an opportunity for us to finally let go of some of the things and kind of relearn or unlearn kind of what we're talking about here today. Unlearn some of the things that have held us back for generations, and recognize that, our mode or method of survival that, that brothers before us had to use, it no longer serves us, man. And it's time, man. It's time to recognize You know, it's a new day for Black men, and you know, the women, our children, they're screaming for us to be better. And this is an opportunity to kind of leave some of that stuff that's weighing you down behind. So it's June 9th through the 14th. It's in Mexico. You know, there's limited spots, and that's on purpose. It's going to be intimate, but we're going to be in the jungle.
Yeah.
We're going to be, you know, connecting with brotherhood. We're going to have a brotherhood circle. Everything is included as far as meals, lodging. You know, like I said, we're going to be doing yoga. You know, it's just so much to it. There's so much meditation, and then once again, it's brotherhood, man. That's what we're going to be doing out here. We're connecting.
Love it. Love it.
There's
That's so
information on the screen. Also, you can find out that information by going to Joe's website. One last conversation piece for you that I have. If you could give one message to Black fathers, uncles, and big brothers about mental health, what would you want them to model for the younger generation?
Yeah. Brothers, your strength is in your vulnerability, right? There is more knowledge and understanding and wisdom in your vulnerability than there is in your so-called or perceived masculinity. The younger and next generation will learn from your mistakes, from your downfalls, from your fears, from your sadness. They cannot learn by you being tough. That tough exterior that they're showing them, that hardness that you're showing them. They can't learn, they can't grow from that. They can't become the husbands and fathers they need to be if they're constantly weighed down there by the performance. Performance is what kept you alive. It's how you survive. Your son, your nephew, your grandson, he does not need that. He does not need that.
right.
Right? Your power is in your vulnerability and your empathy.
Nice. Thank you. And Black Nerd Talk says amen to that. Says amen to that.
Word up.
Joe, thank you so much for spending the most important thing, your time with us. Always have a seat for you whenever you have time, other than your retreat. Other than your retreat. Right.
Yeah,
We don't
let me know, man. Just let me know.
Just curiosity wise, what made you pick that spot for the retreat?
Oh man, you know, I've been there.
Okay.
So I went to Mexico like 4 or 5 times last year. I have community there.
Okay.
So that's where I'm starting. But this is gonna be the first of many, and we're gonna be in different countries, you know. So I need I need guys to tap in and get to this retreat, man. Get to this retreat, man. And unless, you know, people are slow. People have been slow. The fellas have been slow. 99% of the feedback I'm getting is from the ladies. The ladies are just pushing it. They're sharing it. The ladies are like, get there, get there.
Yeah.
Oh man, and usually they're the last. Black men are gonna be the last ones to show up for themselves, man. And then we gotta change that narrative, guys. We gotta go. You know,
Nice.
it's okay.
Agree.
It's okay.
Let's speak it.
Yeah.
All right. As you wrap up here, if you want to get a hold of Kofi Sadat, there's email, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Kofi Morris. Again, there is email, Instagram, 2 Instagram handles, by the way, and a Kofi Coach on Facebook. If you want to find out more about myself, easy. One link, taplink.cc/the DRVIBESHOW.com. Hey, reach out to us. If you have guest suggestions, feedback, how can we make this better for Black men and those who love them? Email us at BLKMENCANTALK@gmail.com. And also, if you want, you can watch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and the Dr. Vibe Show website. And as it comes on the screen, because I needed to go faster, Paul Osbourne on Facebook. All right. So this is how we ended off. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller, get stronger. Block assumptions. Aim bigger, aim better, aim higher and wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making money, make history, try to do both, and make it better. God bless. Peace, well, keep the faith, and hug a black man.
Joe said, to the black man, the entire community can get better. Forget